Hello friends. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. October hits fast in Wyoming. By the time the leaves start to turn that copper gold, the air already feels like it's rehearsing for winter. After my divorce finalized in June, I left Denver behind and moved to a small mountain town called Deadwood Ridge. Population maybe 3,000 on a busy weekend. The kind of place that looks like a postcard from a distance, but feels hollow once you realize how quiet it really is. I rented a small cabin off County Road 11, about 20 minutes from town. It sat near the edge of Larkspur National Forest, tucked between pine ridges that caught the morning mist like smoke. I told myself the silence would be good for me, healing even. By the end of September, I'd memorized every creak in the cabin floorboards and every sound the wind made through the trees, which was why I'd started volunteering. The Parks Department sent out an email about a trail restoration and cleanup at Bear Hollow Trailhead, and I signed up immediately. I figured it might help me meet actual people, not just the gas station clerk who called me ma'am, or my landlord who still mailed rent checks. The email said to meet at 8 a.m., bring gloves if I had them, and they'd supply the rest. That Saturday morning, I pulled into the gravel lot at Bear Hollow just before 8. About 15 cars already sat lined up under the pines. The air smelled like wet bark and campfire smoke, and a thin fog still hugged the ground. A few people were standing in a loose circle, coffee thermoses in hand, flannel jackets, the type of people who looked like they'd grown up here. I recognized one or two from town, the woman who ran the cafe, a mechanic I'd seen once at the tire shop. Everyone was chatting like they'd known each other forever. I hovered near the back, pretending to scroll through my phone, even though there was no signal this far out. Then this man, tall, mid-40s, clean-shaven with a bright orange safety vest, approached me with the kind of overconfident friendliness that immediately felt rehearsed. "First time volunteering?" he asked, smiling wide. I nodded. He introduced himself as Gary Holt, said he'd been helping out with the park cleanups for a couple years. He had a clipboard tucked under one arm and kept pointing at different sections of the trail map, brushing my sleeve lightly every time he gestured. He had that kind of energy, talkative, overly enthusiastic, like a salesman who'd read too many books about body language. He said he'd make sure I got in a good group. When the official park coordinator showed up, a woman named Linda, wearing the actual uniform with the Wyoming State Parks badge. I noticed Gary's vest didn't have any logos. No ID tag either, just plain orange. Linda went over the plan for the day, dividing everyone into teams of 3. I got paired with the cafe owner, Karen, and her brother Rick. We were assigned to the lower loop near the creek. Gary wasn't on the list at all, but he didn't seem to mind. He just smiled and told Linda he'd float between groups to help out where needed. She gave a short nod, but shot him a quick glance. That kind of subtle look people give when they're not entirely comfortable. We grabbed trash bags and grabber sticks, and Karen started chatting with me right away, asking where I'd moved from, if I liked the quiet, telling me about her bakery's cinnamon rolls that everyone in town swore by. An hour in, we'd already filled 2 bags, water bottles, beer cans, even part of a broken tent. The sky had cleared by then, the sun catching on the frost still clinging to the grass. That's when Gary appeared again, coming from up ahead, not from the direction of the other groups. He waved like we were old friends. "Hey, you guys are near the East Bend, right? I found a big dump pile about 50 feet off the trail. Could use an extra hand." Karen immediately frowned. "Shouldn't we get Linda? Some of that junk could be toxic, or metal scrap, Gary laughed it off. Nah, it's just some leftover camp trash. Maybe a college party or something. I already started bagging it up, but it's more than one person can handle. Rick checked his watch. It's almost break time anyway. Linda said we meet back at 10:30. Gary's smile widened. Perfect. There's a shortcut road that goes right back to the parking lot. Old Ranger access route. Saves you at least 15 minutes. I can show you. He was looking straight at me when he said it. Not at Karen, not at Rick. Just me. Karen shifted slightly closer to me, her tone light but firm. We'll stick to the main trail, thanks. I've lived here long enough to know shortcuts in these woods usually end up longer. For a second, Gary's smile dropped. Not much, just enough to see the coldness underneath. Then it was back, brighter than ever. Of course. Suit yourselves, he said. But his eyes didn't match the cheer in his voice. He turned to me again. Maybe I can show you later. You should know the area if you're living out here. Trails can get confusing. I laughed awkwardly and muttered something about maybe next time. But Karen didn't let me finish. She said loudly, "She's with our group, Gary." Linda assigned it that way. Something in her tone, protective, sharp, froze me mid-step. Gary just gave a two-finger salute and wandered off through the trees. I didn't see him again for the rest of the hike. When we got back to the lot, the other teams were already there, refilling water bottles and eating granola bars. Linda stood by her truck, checking attendance against her clipboard. As we grabbed snacks, Karen leaned close and asked quietly, "Did Gary talk to you before today? Or maybe stop by your cabin?" I blinked. "No." "Why?" She exchanged a look with Rick, then sighed. "He's been showing up to these events for months now. Never officially registered. He just appears. Always friendly, always helping out. But none of us know who he actually is. And a few women mentioned him making them uncomfortable. Same story. Trying to get them alone on some side path, I felt my stomach twist. Linda must have noticed our faces because she walked over, clipboard in hand. Karen explained what had happened. Gary trying to lead us off the trail, then vanishing. Linda immediately started counting people. When she hit the end of her list, her face tightened. Someone was missing. A volunteer named Emily Walker, 24, from Cheyenne, hadn't checked back in. Her group said she'd gone to use the portable toilet about 40 minutes ago and never came back. Linda called Emily's phone. We all heard it ringing from the woods behind the porta potties. Rick and two others ran over. Moments later, Rick shouted for Linda to come quick. We followed, hearts pounding, and found Emily's phone lying in the dirt beside a crushed water bottle and one work glove. The phone screen was cracked but lit up, showing an unsent text message. "He's not on the list." It was time-stamped 30 minutes ago. Linda called 911 immediately. Within 20 minutes, sheriff's deputies were there, followed by search and rescue. Dogs swept the area. Drones went up. By sunset, they'd found Gary's orange vest, snagged on a branch near the creek, about 2 miles from the trail. A map of Bear Hollow Trail was discovered inside, with handwritten notes marking remote clearings and times of low activity. 2 days later, they located an abandoned pickup truck registered to Gary Holt, parked at another trailhead 5 miles away. Inside were more maps and a notebook. In that notebook were pages of descriptions. Women, volunteers, car models, hair colors. There was even a note about me. New in town. Cabin off County Road 11. White Subaru. Alone. The FBI got involved when they realized similar disappearances had happened in Idaho and Montana. Same pattern, same method. Outdoor volunteer events. Missing women. They never found Emily. Her parents came down from Cheyenne and stayed for a week. posting flyers around town. The search teams kept going for nearly 2 weeks, but nothing. It was like the forest had swallowed them both. The working theory was that Gary had been living off-grid somewhere in the backcountry, possibly using an abandoned mining cabin or hunting shelter. The terrain around Deadwood Ridge is riddled with caves and gullies that don't show up on modern maps. The sound that still echoes in my head is that ringtone, muffled and looping from the trees, while we all just stood there, too late. Afterward, I couldn't stay. Every trail looked like a trap. Every orange vest made my heart skip. I moved to Boise by winter, but every now and then, I check the regional news. Missing hikers, female campers, different states, same patterns. And I always wonder if Gary found another name, another vest, another lonely newcomer to charm into the trees. The part that haunts me most isn't the day we lost Emily. It's knowing how close I came to being her. Just a different name in a different notebook. It was close to 3 a.m. when the fog rolled in thick over Highway 26 through northern Idaho, the kind that swallows your headlights whole. I'd been on the road nearly 17 hours, hauling frozen goods out of Spokane toward Portland. After the divorce, truck driving became my life. Quiet roads, cheap coffee, no one to argue with but the radio static. I was 43, and I'd seen enough strange nights on American highways to know when something felt wrong. That night, everything felt wrong. The world outside my windshield looked drowned in milk. I could barely make out the white lines. My bladder was screaming, and the rest stop exit sign that suddenly appeared through the fog felt like salvation. It read, Echo Ridge Rest Area, 1 mile. By the time I pulled in, I realized something was off. Only one flickering streetlight glowed in the far corner of the lot. Half the area blocked off by orange barriers and a big wooden sign that read, Closed for maintenance. No facilities. But there, right across the lot, one light was still on, glowing faintly through the fog from inside the men's restroom. I thought, maybe the workers kept one open. Or maybe I just didn't care anymore. I wasn't about to pee in a bottle like a rookie. I grabbed my flashlight, stepped into the cold, and the silence hit me like a wall. It wasn't peaceful silence. It was the kind that listens. The gravel crunched under my boots as I walked past abandoned construction gear and half-finished concrete. The door handle to the restroom felt icy cold. When I pushed it open, the hinges let out a scream that echoed down the empty hallway. Inside, one fluorescent bulb flickered above the cracked tiles, painting the room in a nauseous green glow. Rust stains ran down from the sink, and a smell of bleach mixed with something rotten lingered in the air. 3 stalls lined the wall. The middle one was shut tight. Near the sinks, a hiking backpack sat upright, like someone had just dropped it. Expensive kind, too. Heavy straps, side clips, professional gear. I hesitated, then stepped closer. The main zipper was open. Inside, sitting against a pile of clothes, was a smartphone, its screen still on, still recording. The timer read 03:44:19, more than 4 hours of footage. My stomach sank. Who leaves their phone recording that long in a locked-down rest stop? Curiosity got the better of me. I tapped the screen and started rewinding the video. Most of it was nothing. Ceiling shots, faint sounds, occasional shuffling. Then I froze. A man was standing in the frame. Baseball cap, dark jacket. He stood in front of the middle stall, the one still closed now. He didn't move, didn't speak. Just stood there, facing the door. Then, after a few seconds, he knocked. 3 slow knocks. From inside the stall came a voice, weak, terrified, begging. I couldn't hear the words clearly, but it didn't sound rehearsed. The man in the cap tilted his head, like he was listening closely, then reached into his pocket. He pulled out a thin metal rod, maybe a coat hanger, maybe something else. He slid it between the door and the latch, moving it like someone who'd done this before. The person inside screamed, "Please!" "Don't." Then, a click. The stall door opened. The phone's angle shifted, shake-eye now. It must have been recording from a countertop or bag, because I could see motion. A blur, the man stepping inside the stall, both hands reaching out. Then the phone fell sideways into the backpack. The view went dark. Only the audio kept rolling, dragging sounds, scraping, and then footsteps fading out. For the next 3.5 hours, just the hum of that flickering light. I stared at the screen for a long moment, my brain refusing to process what I'd just seen. Then I turned toward that same middle stall, still shut, still locked. I crouched down, shining my flashlight under the door. The beam caught smears of something dark and wet on the floor, and a single white sliver that looked too much like a fingernail. And that smell, that thick metallic scent of blood, hit the back of my throat. I stood up too fast, bumping the sink. The backpack slid across the floor with a dull scrape. Then, out of nowhere, a ringtone. Not from the phone in my hand, from inside the stall. A bright, cheerful default ringtone that felt painfully out of place here. It rang once, twice, stopped. Then came the text chime. Ding! Another, then another. Someone was trying to reach whoever was in there. I was halfway to the exit when I heard it. Footsteps outside. Slow, crunching the gravel. They stopped right outside the bathroom door. The handle turned. Every muscle in my body locked up. Through the thin crack of the door, I saw a silhouette. A figure wearing a baseball cap. Without thinking, I threw myself against the door, slamming it shut. Whoever was outside stumbled back, then started pounding. Hard. Not knocking. Pounding. Like they wanted to break through. I jammed the bolt across and stumbled backward, shaking so bad I could barely breathe. The pounding stopped. Then, silence. A few seconds later, I heard footsteps moving around the side of the building, then scraping metal. They were trying to get in from the back. That's when the lights went out. Everything went pitch black. Somewhere above me, a tile shifted, then another. Crawling sounds through the ceiling. They were coming through the maintenance space. I didn't wait. I turned the bolt, slipped outside into the fog, and ran. The air outside was like soup, thick, suffocating. My truck was maybe 50 feet away, but it could have been a mile for how blind the fog made me. Behind me, I heard the restroom door burst open, footsteps hitting the gravel hard, fast. I ran faster. My boot hit a toolbox, metal clanging loud in the fog. I didn't dare look back. When my hand hit the truck door, I yanked it open and threw myself inside. Engine roared, headlights flaring through the fog. And there, in that beam of white, stood the man in the cap, 10 feet away, perfectly still, just watching me. I slammed the truck into reverse, spun gravel, and peeled out onto the highway like hell itself was behind me. 20 minutes later, I met 2 troopers at a gas station. They followed me back to Echo Ridge. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. The backpack, the phone, dead now. The middle stall locked tight. They had to cut it open. Inside, blood everywhere, and a wallet. The ID read, Ethan Cole, 27. His car was found the next day, half a mile up an old service road. Empty. Keys in the ignition. Police said they'd review the phone's data, reconstruct what happened. Weeks passed. Then one night, I got a call from Detective Hale. They'd recovered the deleted clips from earlier that night. Ethan had been recording his road trip, documenting national park trails. Around 9:20 p.m., he filmed himself pulling into the same rest stop. Said he couldn't hold it any longer and would make it quick. In the corner of that footage, barely visible through fog and grain, was a white cargo van parked in the far end of the lot. No lights, no movement. The police enhanced the image. The van's rear window showed stolen construction gear inside, the same brand as the tools found behind the Echo Ridge site. The suspect had been using closed rest stops, waiting for travelers desperate enough to stop. They never found the man in the cap, never found Ethan. That rest area's gone now, demolished, paved over. But every few months, truckers still report seeing a single light glowing through fog where it used to stand. And sometimes, if you tune your CB radio just right, driving through that stretch of highway, you'll hear static, and beneath it a faint ringing, like a phone, still waiting to be answered.